On First at 9 this Wednesday, the 14th of January 2026. Reform dilemma. Civil organizations call for an investigation against Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya. Inter-University Students' Federation demands the complete withdrawal of the education reforms and a broad public dialogue on future reforms. Remanded. Trincomalee Magistrates Court orders the remand of 4 Buddhist monks in connection with the altercation over the installation of a Buddhist statue in Trincomalee. Tariff stay put. Public Utilities Commission decides not to implement an electricity tariff revision for the first quarter of this year. Cites delays and shortcomings in the CEB's proposal submission. Broadcasting excitement. FM Derana named the official radio broadcast partner for the 2026 ICC T20 World Cup.
Kalin baby so rupial anuwakata. Kalin baby podi hamotamai.
This is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on Other Derana News Channel, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. I'm Devindi Nanayakara, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story. The Ministry of Education today issued guidelines for time commencement of academic activities for the grade 6th after the proposed curriculum revision was postponed until next year following criticism against the government's education reforms. Meanwhile, education trade unions questioned the government on the recovery of financial losses incurred due to the rescheduling of the education reforms.
In the face of criticism against the new education reforms, the Cabinet yesterday decided to postpone the implementation of the Grade 6 curriculum reform until next year. However, the proposed reforms for Grade 1 will take effect this year. Against this backdrop, the Ministry of Education issued a special notice concerning academic activities for Grades 1 and 6. In line with yesterday's Cabinet decision, Grade 6 students will be taught the same curriculum as last year, and students will therefore use the same textbooks that were previously in circulation. Additionally, the Ministry confirms that formal academic activities for the first grade will commence on January 29th in accordance with the revised curriculum introduced as part of the education reforms. A comprehensive circular outlining these directives is scheduled to be issued shortly. Meanwhile, education trade unionists questioned the government on the recovery of financial losses incurred due to the premature printing of grade 6 learning modules. Several groups further alleged that key proposals submitting to the Ministry of Education have been ignored during the formulation of the proposed reforms. Against this backdrop, representatives of several civil organizations lodged a complaint at the police headquarters today, calling for an investigation against Education Minister, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya.
The complaint highlights that same-sex relationships are illegal, a fact well known in society. However, the most pressing concern is that it is an offence to promote sexuality among school children. So how was the Ministry of Education permitted to include such content in school textbooks?
අධ්‍යාපන අමාත්‍යාංශයෙන් මේක ඇතුළත් කරේ. මෙන්න මේක තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ. මොන අවුරුද්දේ අධ්‍යාපන පොලිස්කන්සලෙන් ගෙනාවත්.
Regardless of when the reforms are implemented, Harini Amarasuriya cannot be permitted to hold the portfolio of Minister of Education. The reforms are an attempt to promote her personal views. Dismiss Harini Amarasuriya from the position of Education Minister. We will not abandon this fight until then.
අධ්‍යාපන අමාත්‍යාංශයෙන් අයින් කරන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැති වුණොත් මේ සටන අපි නවත්තන්නේ නැහැ.
Meanwhile, the Inter-University Students' Federation staged a protest today in front of the Colombo Fort Railway Station, demanding the complete withdrawal of the education reforms and a comprehensive public dialogue on any future reforms.
ඔබේ සම හඳුනාගෙන ඖෂධීය ශාකසාරමේ Forever face wash එකක් භාවිතා කරන්න.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya says more than 2,000 schools have been identified as recurring digital infrastructure facilities, with the government working to address these needs. She made these remarks during a ceremony at the Ministry of Education today.
The inauguration ceremony of the China-aid Digital Transformation Project of General Education in Sri Lanka was held at the Ministry of Education today. The event saw the attendance of Minister of Education, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya and Chinese Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Xi Jinping.
This initiative perfectly aligned with Sri Lanka's national digital strategy. China is delighted to contribute to Sri Lanka's digital innovation, funded by a grant of 81.2 million Sri Lanka rupee from the Chinese government. This project will establish 900 smart classrooms across 500 schools in Sri Lanka. The Chinese embassy has supported in establishing 2 model smart classrooms in 2 Sri Lanka National College of Education, utilize the state-of-the-art Chinese educational equipment and standards.
Education reform is a central pillar of our government's vision for national development. This commitment is reflected in the allocation of Sri Lankan rupees 704 billion in the 2026 national budget. Our approach prioritizes modernizing curricula to align with contemporary needs, introducing competency-based learning, strengthening both academic and vocational pathways, reducing excessive examination pressures, making education a meaningful learning experience, and ensuring that all students are equipped with the skills required to succeed in a rapidly evolving global economy when needed.
Some schools already possess facilities while others lack them. We plan to address this disparity. Over 2,000 schools have already been identified as requiring infrastructure and connectivity, and we intend to provide these through projects such as these.
Here's a look at some thoughts shared in the political arena on the latest developments concerning the controversial education reforms.
As stated in Parliament, education has been swept away like walls during a landslide. Yesterday, the government announced that the Grade 6 curriculum revision would be postponed by 1 year, while the revised Grade 1 curriculum will be implemented without amendments. Was the Grade 1 revision formulated with proper oversight? They have also failed to clarify whether a pilot project will be launched before implementing the Grade 6 curriculum in 2027. Not even Ranil Wickremesinghe, who served as Education Minister during the era of extreme liberalism under J.R. Jayawardena, carried out such actions.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහවත් කළා නැහැ. ඇයි ඉතිහාසයේ පොතේ? ඇයි බුද්ධ ආගම පොතේ? ඒ කියන්නේ ප්‍රශ්න නැහැ. ඒක පොතෙන් පොතට අල්ලගත්තොත්
If we examine every book closely, errors can be found in almost every sentence. I read the entire Grade 6 history module. It includes lessons on the history of castes in Sri Lanka. This is an attempt to stop history from being taught. We will continue this struggle until we are assured that the country's free education will remain intact. We invite every beneficiary of Sri Lanka's free education system to join us regardless of political affiliation.
කවුරු විරුද්ධුණත් මේක අපි කරනවා.
They claim the education reforms will be implemented despite opposition. However, at the last moment, the government realized that proceedings would result in severe public backlash. This is why the reforms were withdrawn. I do not believe they will attempt to implement these reforms even in 2027.
ඔක උස්සන් එයි කියලා.
ඔබතුමා විරෝධතාවයක් ක්‍රියාත්මක කරා අධ්‍යාපන අමාත්‍යාංශය ඉදිරිපිට. ඒ වෙලාවේ ඔබතුමා ප්‍රකාශ කරා අමාත්‍යවරියට දූර ඉල්ලා ආස්පිය යුතුයි කියන කාරණාව.
අපේ සටන් පාට දෙකක් තිබ්බනේ.
We had 2 main demands. First, the withdrawal of education reforms that encourage children to form inappropriate associations. Second, we demanded the resignation of the education minister. We did not ask her to resign as Prime Minister, only as the Minister of Education because she endorsed those reforms. Although the reforms have been withdrawn, she still holds the portfolio. However, she can no longer proceed with these reforms. We have not reversed the education reforms. We will take a step back in order to move forward after informing the public adequately. Countries such as Australia and Canada have enacted laws banning mobile phone use for children under 16. They done so after witnessing the damage caused to children. While those countries are working to protect their children, we are introducing modules that could harm ours. At this moment, the best step the President can take is to reform the government before reforming the education system.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says the opposition will build a unified platform for safeguarding Sri Lanka's free education system. The opposition leader further called for education to be declared a fundamental right through a constitutional amendment.
Several education sector stakeholders, including trade unionists, professionals, political representatives and other civil organizations, participated in the program titled A Common Platform to Protect Free Education, held today at the opposition leader's office.
41 ලක්ෂයක්
We are preparing the platform to protect free education for 4.1 million school students and tertiary education for university students. To make this initiative successful, we plan to hold a weekly public forum at the Opposition Leader's office. Education policy should be representative of all levels of society. Education has not been declared a right under the Human Rights section of Chapter 3 of the Constitution. It is only declared a right under Chapter 6. Even in the Constitution, education has not been given the proper recognition. Our starting point should be making education and healthcare fundamental rights and human rights through a constitutional amendment.
Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe visited Anuradhapura last night, where he paid homage to several Buddhist sacred sites and participated in religious observances. During the visit, he also received blessings from senior members of the Buddhist clergy.
Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe paid homage at historic Ruanwali Mahasaya in Anuradhapura last night and sought blessings. Subsequently, the former president called on the chief incumbent of the Anamasthana, Venerable Dr. Pallegam Hemarathnathera, and received blessings. Thereafter, Wickremesinghe paid homage to the Jayashree Mahabodhi and participated in religious observances.
At a time when the country was unstable and many acted without consideration for the nation's well-being, it is no secret that you stepped forward to rescue the country from danger. The country was at a critical point. We witnessed long queues, but I doubt whether the public remembers this now. People were even dying in queues, but you saved them. You are highly respected internationally as well. You brought peace to the hearts of the people and helped stabilize the national economy to a certain extent. People remember these contributions. Your name is written in history as a president who rendered a great service to the nation. You are invaluable to the country and are respected by the people.
The Public Utilities Commission has decided not to implement an electricity tariff revision for the first quarter of 2026. The Commission cited the Electricity Board's failure to submit a formal and complete tariff proposal within the stipulated time frame as the reason for its decision. The tariff proposal for January to March 2026 was initially submitted in November last year and again on December 29th. However, the Commission, citing deficiencies, requested a revised proposal by January 8th. The Ceylon Electricity Board later informed that the proposal would be delayed further and no revised submission has been received so far. The Public Utilities Commission notes that the frequent tariff hikes have adversely affected national economy and said any future revision will only be implemented after public consultation. Accordingly, the Commission has directed that the electricity tariff revision proposal for the second quarter of this year be submitted on or before February 13th. Welcome back. The Trincomalee Magistrates Court ordered Venerable Balangoda Kassapatero to be held in remand custody along with 4 other monks and 5 additional suspects. The arrest and subsequent detention was ordered as part of investigation into the enshrinement of a Buddha statue at Sri Sambuddha Jayanti Bodhiraja Viharaya on Fort Road, Trincomalee. The order was given when the suspects appeared in court today.
After laying the foundation stone for a Dhamma school at Sri Sambuddha Jayanti Bodhiraja Viharaya in Trincomalee, the chief incumbent and the temple's layman's committee planned to enshrine a Buddha statue at the site on November 16. However, the police informed that the Coastal Conservation Department had filed a complaint alleging unauthorized construction. That night, the police took steps to remove the Buddha statue. Tensions escalated and 2 monks were reportedly hospitalized following alleged assaults. Off the back of public protest, the police reinstated the Buddha statue the next day. A petition was subsequently filed at the Court of Appeal seeking an injunction against the Coastal Conservation Department's demolition order. On November 19, the court urged the parties to resolve the matter amicably. The case was later heard at the Trincomalee Magistrates Court today. Of the 11 named suspects, 9 appeared, including Venerable Trincomalee Kalyana Wansathira, Balangoda Kassapatera, Trincomalee Sugita Wansathira, and Venerable Nandathera. Trincomalee police filed a report in court alleging the suspects over violating the Coastal Conservation Act. The magistrate ordered the 4 monks, including Venerable Kalyana Wansathira and Venerable Balangoda Kassapatera, to be held in remand custody along with 5 others until January 19th.
Sri Lanka Customs and the Inland Revenue Department entered into a memorandum of understanding to establish a joint mechanism aimed at preventing revenue losses to the state. Treasury Secretary Dr. Harshana Surya Peruma said the government plans to maximize state revenue by utilizing existing tax mechanisms effectively without imposing an additional burden on taxpayers.
Sri Lanka Customs and the Inland Revenue Department entered into a memorandum of understanding yesterday to establish a joint mechanism for conducting investigations aimed at preventing revenue losses to the state. The MOU was signed at the Ministry of Finance in the presence of Treasury Secretary Dr. Harshan Surya Peruma, Director General of Customs Sivali Aruggoda and Commissioner General of Inland Revenue Rukdevi Fernando.
This initiative is designed to ensure the fair treatment of all tax-compliant businesses. When some importers evade tax obligations, it creates an uneven playing field, disadvantaging compliant businesses. Moreover, these irregularities significantly erode state revenue. This mechanism will address and mitigate these challenges. Moving forward, our objective is to close legal loopholes, strengthen the legislative framework and overcome barriers to interagency collaboration. This will enable the existing tax mechanism to be utilized effectively, thereby maximizing state revenue without imposing an additional burden on businesses.
ආදායම රජයට ලබා ගැනීමේ ක්‍රමවේදය ශක්තිමත් කිරීම තමයි මේ වැඩසටහනේ බලාපොරොත්තුව.
Minister Ananda Vijaypala asserts that the decision to grant 500,000 rupees in compensation for all partially damaged houses was taken to avoid lengthy assessment procedures. The minister emphasized that the government's intention is not merely to compensate for damages but to uplift the living standards of affected communities above pre-disaster levels.
Kurunegala District Coordinating Committee convened yesterday, chaired by Deputy Minister of Agriculture Namal Karunaratne. Minister of Public Security and Parliamentary Affairs Ananda Vijaypala was also in attendance.
The objective is to uplift people's livelihoods higher than pre-disaster levels. While most families have been severely affected, a significant number have only suffered minor damages. We believe it would be appropriate to categorize affected families based on the level of damage suffered. Officials compiled reports of both fully and partially damaged houses. Accordingly, around 120,000 partially damaged houses were identified. Are you questioning why the government is providing 500,000 rupees even for small-scale damage? We have no issue with the payment. 143 houses within my division have suffered partial damage. I personally inspected 48 of them. 96 houses have only suffered damages amounting to less than 100,000 rupees. The circular, which is effective nationwide, was primarily based on damages caused by landslides. That is incorrect. I continuously participated in the discussions where the circular was formulated. The objective was not merely to compensate for damages, but to assist people improve their houses. That is why 500,000 rupees are granted even if the assessed damage is only 100,000 rupees. This is a policy decision formalized through the circular. The government's policy decision is to provide 500,000 rupees. Had we limited compensation to 100,000 rupees, it would have reduced government expenditure, but that was not our intent. Our aim was to uplift living standards as stated by the President in Parliament. We will even provide 5 million rupees for a fully damaged house, even if its actual value is only 1 million rupees. Concerns may arise regarding financial management when a 500,000 rupee compensation package is granted, even for damages only amounting to 25,000 rupees. However, a majority of people were affected by the disaster. Nearly 90% of the issue can be resolved by compensating all partially damaged houses with 500,000 rupees rather than conducting lengthy assessments for all 120,000 houses. If every house were to be assessed individually, there would be a shortage of technical officers. Therefore, compensation of 500,000 rupees will be granted where damages are roughly estimated to be below that figure. Only in cases where damages exceed 500,000 rupees in value will detailed assessments be conducted and compensation of up to 2.5 million rupees will be granted.
A United Nations Development Programme assessment sheds new light on the scale of devastation left by Cyclone Ditwa, with most affected communities reporting severe damage to homes, roads and essential services. The findings point to widespread economic hardship and highlight the need for recovery efforts that reach informal workers and vulnerable households.
The new United Nations Development Programme assessment, based on interviews with 510 local officials, business leaders and community representatives across 22 of the worst-hit districts, found that 95% reported damage to residential, transport or community infrastructure, with housing and roads most affected. Earlier, UNDP analysis estimated that flooding affected nearly 20% of the island, exposing about 2.3 million people. Many communities now lack the materials, labour and funds needed to rebuild. UNDP also reported severe economic impacts, with 93% of respondents saying livelihoods were disrupted due to crop losses, job cuts and business closures, particularly in the informal sector. While welcoming government plans to provide 95 billion rupees in support to small and medium enterprises, UNDP stressed the need for inclusive recovery efforts that support informal workers, strengthen local economies and build long-term climate and disaster resilience.
The trailer for Sri Lanka's first animated feature film, created for a global audience, titled The Secret of the Moonstone, was released by Mogo Studios. The film is set to make its global release in the near future.
Animation, a cornerstone of modern digital technology, brings still images to life through the art of movement and imagination. Recognizing the growing demand for skilled professionals in the animation and media industries, the Mogo Media Academy was established to address critical gaps in Sri Lanka's educational landscape. In line with this vision, Mogo Games, a subsidiary of Derana Macro Entertainment Private Limited, launched its first video game, Song of Kings, a puzzle platform adventure last year. Marking yet another major milestone, Mogo Studios has now unveiled the trailer of Sri Lanka's first animated feature film created for a global audience, titled The Secret of the Moonstone.
In the untouched forests of the tropical island of Sri Lanka, a secret was hidden.
Oh, Arachi, you will never understand this book.
Nearly 85% of the film has been produced using advanced motion capture technology. Characters and locations in the movie have been meticulously recreated through 3D animation, significantly enhancing the visual experience for audiences. Mogo Studios, which owns state-of-the-art Viken motion capture technology, stands as Sri Lanka's largest, most award-winning animation studio. The film is scheduled for worldwide release in the near future.
Welcome back. The Colombo Stock Exchange All-Share Price Index surpassed the 22,500 point mark for the first time in the history today. The ASPI ended the session at 23,708.7. Meanwhile, the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 increased by 0.73% to end the day at 6,541.97. Market turnover was 99.2 billion rupees. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers, offloading shares worth 1.7 billion rupees. Mushraf Ibrahim from Capital Alliance joins us now with few thoughts to round off our economic outlook segment of the week.
In December 2025, NCPI-based headline inflation recorded a marginal year-on-year increase of 0.8%, while CCPI-based headline inflation stood at 1.6%. Core inflation remained contained, with NCPI core inflation at 0.7% and CCPI core inflation at 1.6%, indicating limited underlying price pressures across the economy. In the monetary sector, interest rates continued to edge higher for the week ending 9th January 2026. The average weighted prime lending rate rose by 12 basis points to 9.19%, while the average weighted call money rate eased slightly to 7.96%.
Sri Lanka's official jersey for the 2026 T20 World Cup was unveiled in Colombo this afternoon. Meanwhile, FM Derana was named the official broadcasting partner for Sri Lanka in this year's T20 World Cup.
FM Derana was named the official radio broadcasting partner of the T20 World Cup, which will be co-hosted by Sri Lanka and India starting February 7th. The announcement was made during a special press conference in Colombo today.
විදන්නවා දෙරණ ලංකාව පුරාම ශ්‍රාවකයන්ට සුසර කර හැකි ගුවන්විදුලි නාලිකාවක්.
FM Derana is available to listeners across the country. We are well aware that Derana consistently praises the positive while criticizing the negative. Sri Lanka cricket was also subject to such criticism. However, we do not hold a grudge over that. Sri Lanka cricket is open to all criticism. We believe Derana will increase the enthusiasm for cricket all across the island.
ඔවුනුගේ ක්‍රිකට් උනන්දුව තව ටිකක් ඉහළට නගවන්න උදව් උපකාර කරයි.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා මේ ක්‍රිකට් වල යම්කිසි පිබිදීමක් ඇති කිරීම වෙනුවෙන්.
We plan to have a positive broadcasting campaign that will create resurgence in Sri Lankan cricket. We want to motivate our team so they can perform at their best. It is clear that public enthusiasm for cricket has declined in recent times. The Derana Media Network hopes to rekindle that excitement so that we can stand behind our team.
අපේ ක්‍රීඩා කණ්ඩායමට අපි ශක්තියක් විය යුතුයි. ඒ සඳහා අවශ්‍ය පියවර ගන්න. ඒ ටික තමයි අපි Derana මාධ්‍යාලයට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
FM Derana's theme song for the T20 World Cup was also launched during the event. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's official jersey for the 2026 T20 World Cup was unveiled in Colombo this afternoon.
That's all for tonight from First at 9. For the latest developments around the clock, stay in touch with Ada Derana, the Sri Lankan news brand of international excellence. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.